content is king. I don't believe that you can produce too much content because there's all these filters and things like that. And if you put enough out there, more people will see it. Welcome to Matt Laricy Project. This is a show about all things real estate, business, marketing, and entrepreneurship. Each show consists of myself, Matt Laricy, and a guest. This is Season 3, Episode 14, a year in recap. And, there is no guest today because what we are doing is going over what has happened this year in the market. I think we can obviously say that this has been a crazy year. And we can definitely agree that things did not go as we would have planned because of something called COVID, the civil unrest, and the election. So what we did is we took together a bunch of questions of what people had about happening in 2020, and we're just going to read them off like we have in the past. So, starting with, what was the biggest lesson I learned in 2020? I would probably say the biggest lesson is to have patience. I'm naturally somewhat of a patient person, probably not. But, when everything first hit, I like to move really, really quickly. And I realized that, some people need to take some time to be able to understand that they had to be able to feel comfortable leaving their house and everything like that. So probably for me, it was just like trying to understand that we need to be patient with the situation. It's not going to blow over in a day, even as much as we all want it to. But it's just something we had to kind of deal with. What was the biggest mistake you made during 2020? I don't know about if there's just one mistake in general. There's probably more than I can count. Just like everybody, I'm human. I mess up. There's not one big, huge catastrophe. Wow, butcher that one. That comes to my mind when I think about maybe that was my biggest mistake right there, not being able to say that word. But I can tell you is that we've lost a lot of deals at the height of the pandemic, and we learned a lot to try to change our future business. I also learned a lot that we were losing more buyer and seller consultations because I was just doing them on the phone because a lot of people didn't want you coming to their house. And then we started doing the Zooms, and then obviously Zoom became popular and big. But once we did that, we realized that we were having more success. So again, it's just a lot of little things that we did to change and pivot to try to be more successful. How has your team changed? We've had one agent we let go or rolled off. One of my assistants, moved to the suburbs, and she let go, and got along very good with both of them. But it is what it is. People's lives change, and we got a new assistant, and we have another new agent. The team size is the same. In fact, it was lower year over year for a point, but otherwise the team overall is somewhat the same. On an assistant and an agent were exchanged out. How have you changed? I don't think I've changed that much. I think I'm still pretty much the same. Maybe people who know me better may say otherwise, but I think I'm pretty much where I was in 2019 as I am today. What changes will you keep moving forward? What will you discard? When it comes to business, there's a few things I've kind of learned a little bit. Personally, I've learned to let go in some aspects of the business and leverage my team. So this way my team guys can make more money and I can have more time to get more business. You know what? I think a big one is I don't know if I'm going to go to closings anymore. I feel like closings have sped up. We haven't been allowed to go to closings. And now that we're not, it's like 6 hours on a Monday sometimes I get back. And although I think my clients appreciate it, I don't think it would be that much different if I just stopped by because 99% of the time you're just sitting there while they're trying to pay attention to the papers and they're rushing to get the hell out of there too. So that's probably the biggest change I think I'm going to do. And what am I doing now that I'll discard? I don't think there's anything we're doing now that I think is bad that I haven't already gotten rid of. We're constantly trying to figure out. We have meetings every week, like what are we doing wrong, what can we change, etc. I guess discard. We're not going to have all of the agent show properties. We're signing agents listings now, which is I guess something that we're discarding but changing, and that'll be a big change for our group. Some are mad, some are not mad. Are you getting the vaccine? I mean, I don't plan on it. I'm a healthy guy. I don't think I should probably be one to get it. I think there's a lot of people who need it way more than I do. Years from now, 2 years from now, when everybody who should have gotten it, and there's a surplus of it, and I'm required to get it, I'll get it. But otherwise, I probably won't. But you know what? I don't know enough about the vaccine. It's very controversial. I got D's and F's in science. Other people know more than me. We'll see how this all plays out. Do you ever think you got COVID? I don't think so. It's possible. I don't get tested every day. So I'll tell you what, a great way, apparently from what the scientists have said and CDC have said, is that you lose the taste. You lose your sense of taste. And I can tell you that I drink wine every night, and every night so far I have been able to taste every single thing that comes up. So I don't know. I would maybe say that means no, but then again, who knows? How did you perform compared to your goals you set at the beginning of 2020? So our goal was $220 million in 2020. You like that pun? But we didn't make our goal. We're going to hit about 204, 205 million. Technically, it's like 207 because they're not going to count a couple million. And we have about 16 million pending. So if we included pending, we hit our goal. But I don't use Bush League stats. I believe our goal was 220 million closed, not closed and pending. It was closed. So we failed at our goal. I feel like a lot of people think we should be excited that we hit 200 million. Personally, I feel like a failure. Personally, I think we could have done better. All I keep thinking about is I know for a fact there's 10 million more we could have closed that fell apart. And I think that there's probably another 10 million that I probably converted. So in my mind, we probably should have closed 235 to 237, and we only closed 203 to 205, depending on how things shake out by the end of the year. Will 2020 numbers be tough to beat next year? I mean, let's face it, 203 to 205 million is a very difficult number to beat. This is the first time we've ever done over 200 million. So technically, yeah, that should be hard to beat, but I love a challenge, and my goal next year is going to be 250 million. So I think we got it. What made you proud of your team this year? I think for the most part, my team performed. I mean, at the end of the day, when the height of COVID hit, nobody knew what the hell this was. And the fact that, half my team members were willing to go on the field and kind of, quote unquote, risk our lives. And at that point, we weren't wearing masks because they weren't mandated. Nobody even knew to wear a mask. So we kind of, put everything on the line to show properties. It kind of sounds stupid when you say it now, but I mean, and looking back on it, we're healthy people, so we're fine. But that probably maybe the proudest is that, we were willing to do what it takes to win. What was it like firing and hiring during 2020? It's pretty standard. I mean, technically, we didn't fire anybody. The two people left. The hiring process was surprisingly how many applications came in. I feel like I've hired admins before, and we would maybe get 2 to 5 applications a day. And this year we were getting 50 to 60 applications a day. So it was pretty damn overwhelming. And that's because there's a lot of people out of work, and that's an unfortunate situation. So I would say that, the hiring situation was a little bit overwhelming with the amount of talent that was out there. What surprised you about the real estate market during 2020? I think what surprised me was at first how good it is and how on a macro basis the real estate market is crushing it. I didn't think that this would be one of the best years ever. I thought the market would be okay, but I didn't think it would be the best year ever. What else surprised me is how bad some areas of the market are doing. I know a lot of people aren't moving in the city, but I would have never thought that the rental market would have got hit as bad as it did with pricing. The rental market's kind of going through the bubble that we saw in 2008 with real estate prices. So those two things were probably my biggest surprises. What surprised me about other realtors in 2020? I think what surprised me is there was a lot of people I saw out there who kind of stopped working, which I thought was kind of surprising, and God bless them. It's a shitty situation. So that kind of surprised me. But what also surprised me is the opposite too, is that I saw a lot of my colleagues work harder than I've ever seen them work before either. And I think it's kudos to everybody out there and all my other fellow agents that were able to kind of work their asses off to try to succeed and put bread on the table for their families. How did you handle the stress of 2020? I drank more. Definitely drank more, for sure. But, I work out every morning, join Mayweather Gym, punching it out in the morning. That helps out too. I also started getting up even earlier towards the last half of the year to try to stay ahead of everything else, which means I slept even less. But that helped me not be behind, and that helped limit the stress that comes in on a normal day. How do you feel about your numbers? I feel I mentioned this, disappointed. Let's say we finish at 205 million. I would say that it's a failure. It's depressing. I feel disgusting. Just the thought of how much we've lost. So, but that's the beauty about failing. And there's always next year. And next year we're going to do better. And I'm going to remember the way I feel about this shit year, and we're going to make up for it. What month was the most stressful? Which was the least? The most stressful was mid-March to mid-April. And that's because we were losing deals more than I've ever seen in my life. Like, things were falling from the sky. I can remember places that were supposed to close morning of and the deal dying, and the amount of calls and yelling and belittling that we were getting. Imagine you're closing on a property at 5 o'clock to 4 o'clock today, and at 10 a.m. we get a cancellation letter. And you can't do anything about it. Well, who are you going to blame? You're going to blame this guy, and somehow it's my fault. And then we get fired from the listing on top of it. So imagine you did your whole job. You did nothing wrong. You're about to get paid the money that you deserve to get paid for. You got to pay your people. You got to pay your taxes. And then the deal dies out of nothing you did wrong. It was illegal, but at that point, nobody else knew what was going on, so we couldn't do anything. And then you get fired on top of it. So yeah, that was a stressful moment, but that's what it is. And what's the least stressful? I don't believe there's never a time where I'm not stressed out. I could never tell you. I'd like to say maybe December we're a little bit slower, but we're not. We're busy as hell. And we're not just busy with closings, we're busy with picking up new business. So there's never a non-stressful time. Are you hiring? Yes, we are hiring a new agent heading into next year. So anybody watching this, we do need another agent. Apply, put my email over here, send me applications. Did you drink more wine in 2020 than any other year? Yeah, I just said this. Definitely drank more this year. I stayed at my in-laws a lot, drank more there. For about a month, there was like a weird lull time where we were working, but there wasn't like a shit ton of business. So, yeah, we were stressed out. But, we drank the good stuff, so it was okay. Best non-work related moment of 2020. So, today is December 23rd. On December 14th, we had our second kid, a baby girl, Remy. So that would probably be, it was obviously the best moment of 2020. Can we get an update of everyone's days off count for 2020? No, because people are very upset about it. That's an inter-office thing. I can tell you there was some people who exceeded their days off. Guys, remember, a day off is anything before 6:30 at night is considered a half day. And if you take, obviously, the full day, it's a full day off. And anything at before 4 o'clock off on a Saturday or Sunday is a half day. So they add up quick. And everybody out there, it's like, I never take off more than 5 days a year. It's like, okay, well, you have Christmas, New Year's Day, right? Easter, Memorial Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving. That's 6 days right there. Okay, so you're automatically at 6 pretty much. Those are major holidays. Do you take off Christmas Eve, the half day before that? Like if you take off before 4 p.m. on Christmas Eve, that's a half day, right? You take off half day before Thanksgiving, that's another half day. That's 7. You know what I mean? So like, it adds up quick. Everybody here can say that they think they can do it, but it's tough. And my point why I wanted to count the days off was to show people and hold them accountable, as saying like, hey, all these little things add up. It's like dieting, like you cheat here, you cheat here, you cheat here, and then next thing you know, you gain weight. You're like, well, how did it happen? It's like, well, you start counting the calories, it starts making sense. So, will you take less days off next year? I like these days off questions. So I took 8.5 days off this year. I will take Christmas off, so I'll most likely end at 9.5 days off because I am working on Christmas Eve. So I do 9.5 days off. That's impossible for me to beat. That'll be my record. I will tell you, because there's no chance I'll be able to beat that, because I do need a few vacations a year. I need to take at least 1 or 2 vacations a year. And this year I took a 2.5 day vacation because it got cut short because Lightfoot closed the borders for a little bit. And right when I landed in Napa, they said, hey, if you're not back by Sunday night, July 4th, you're not allowed back in pretty much, right? You had the quarantine. So we were supposed to stay till Wednesday. So Sunday night, we were back in line, back at home. So, 9.5 days will be a record that I don't think I'll ever beat again for the rest of my life. So you talk about one of my proudest accomplishments of the year, only taking off 9.5 days. Think about that. Everybody there, if you're watching this, she's like, I could easily take less than 9.5 days. Try it. I'm telling you, 6:30 is the cutoff on a weekday and 4 o'clock on a weekend. So it's I got to use the word. I think that's an impossible number to beat. I think that's going to be legendary when we talk about days off for the remaining times. Did you drink more or less coffee than normal during 2020? Definitely drink more, especially in the last half. I started waking up even earlier than I normally wake up, starting in August when I moved back to the city. And ever since then, probably my coffee consumption has doubled. In one word, how would you describe 2020? Different, right? It's a different year. Nothing's the same. Everything has changed for a little bit, but guess what? It's going to go back to normal. So maybe next year will be normal. This year, different. What is one personal goal you want to take into the new year? I think I want to be better. I always want to be better. I think we can always be a better version of ourselves. Each and every day when I go to bed, I ask myself, what can I do to be better tomorrow? And I'm always learning. I'm very critical of myself. I'm probably my own hardest critic. So what I'm going to do is, and what we have been doing, honestly, every single second we've been not busy, we've been working on next year. That's, by the way, guys, you probably noticed, so we didn't even mention this. We have a different podcast background right now, right? And why is that? Because we can't show it, but we're redoing the whole podcast set. We have a whole new relaunch, rebrand going on. So, what we're going to do is we're constantly going to try to be better next year. And that's a personal goal. Is each and every day wake up a better version of who I was the day before. Did you think the high-rise market would be as bad as it was? No. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, you figure that we're going to finish around $205 million this year. High-rises is probably my main, if you had to look at all the sales I have, 420 plus sales this year, high-rises are my bread and butter. And the fact that they're having the worst year probably on record and we still crushed it, that's what I'm excited about next year. I'm excited that the market, my main market that I personally work, was fucking demolished and we killed it. Imagine what's going to happen when that market is decent. That's what I'm really juiced up about. But no, I didn't think people would be as scared of elevators as they were. But I mean, who knew what was going to happen with this disease? What are 3 items this year that you predicted in the beginning of the year that you feel were correct, and how about wrong? Well, I know for a fact what the wrong. The wrong, I said that I thought interest rates would go up, and obviously I was dead wrong. I was also wrong of thinking that this year for the first and second quarters would be amazing. I said that we would have a fast start to the year and a terrible finish to the year. So we did have a fast start for the most part, and we did have a terrible finish, so it was right there, but obviously we didn't know how terrible it was going to be for a little bit in there. Probably the biggest thing that I feel like I was 100% right on is that I told everybody that, it was a presidential election year and the market could be tricky, and I said that big cities would get crushed. And guess what happened? Big cities got crushed. You look at Chicago, downtown New York, downtown San Francisco, big cities with high dense people are getting hurt the most, and there's that mass exodus back to the suburbs. But like I've been saying, just wait. We're going to be seeing the great migration back to the city soon enough. Who is one person that inspires you in the podcast world? Honestly, I don't really listen to any podcasts. I listen to ours, and that's just about it. I like Gary Vee a little bit. I've been listening to him less. I think it's mostly because so many people are completely ripping him off and making these kind of douchey things that are all bro-y out but doesn't give any value. So I've kind of had to get away from it. But I like Sirhan's stuff, but that's more vlog-wise. But him and Gary Vee are probably the 2 biggest ones I learn and try to listen to. What was one of your aha moments from 2020? I think probably there's 2 big chinks. There's 2 things that I think we don't do perfect. I shouldn't say perfect, but there's 2 things that I think we can always work on a little bit more. And one is that we were really listing heavy last year. This year we're even more listing heavy. And as we got more listing heavy, the way our system worked with showing listings, I knew by like August, I was like, you know what? Our system's good. It's great. I think our clients are happy. I think we do a good job with it. But I think we could do better. And how do we do better? There's some things that we're changing, which we're not going to get into completely. But that was probably my biggest, like, let's do it. Let's make this pivot and change. I kind of realized that kind of firsthand. And that's when I guess it was. I was kind of like, aha, yeah, we got to change that. What was your biggest disappointment this past year? I got fired more this year than I've ever got fired. Last year I got fired a decent bit, but this year we got fired a bit. I would say that I was disappointed in the fact that like I couldn't convince or talk our clients into keeping us, even though I will say, and I think you should always take accountability, like the reason the deals didn't work out was solely because COVID hit and people got fired or lost their jobs and they couldn't close. And we got blamed for that. And that to me was disappointing in the fact that our clients looked at us like we were failures because of something that we had no control over. And it just really gets under my skin, the fact that we fought tooth and nail, literally put our lives on the line to show this for them during the height of the pandemic. And due to things that we literally have no control over, we got fired from. That hurt. Those were tough ones. But on the flip side, at the end of the day, we didn't close it. And I see their point of view. And, somebody's got to be blamed. And some people will always blame somebody else. And we'll be those fall guys. And I have to reflect and know that not everybody's going to like you. Probably more people are going to hate you than like you. That's just how life works. And the fact that, if you're not going to be one to close it, somebody else will. And you can't get mad about it. You just got to pick yourself up. So for a minute, I'll feel sorry. I'll get pissed. I'll be disappointed. And then I just got to be like, fuck it. I got to be better next time. And that's it. What is one thing you would like to improve on yourself with your team? Okay, so probably on myself, I got a temper. I do. I have a bad temper. I get mad really, really quickly, and then I forget what I got mad about like 4 seconds later. However, the person I get mad at probably doesn't forget about it. I need to probably take a couple more seconds to breathe before I react. So think about it, then react. Instead of react and then be like, fuck, I probably shouldn't have been that rude. But like everybody else, that's just one flaw for me. There's more flaws than I can count. But that's probably one that I think I know I'm at an age now, right? I gotta try to be more self-conscious of how I act in some moments. With my team, I'd probably say that I would like my team to, there's a lot of stuff I'd like to improve on with our team, and I think it's probably going to come down to is meeting more and holding myself more accountable with my team, meaning that I can't blame my team for faults if the communication wasn't maybe brought to them. So I think it's going to be getting and it's not like we don't communicate, guys. I call each one of my team members probably once or twice a day, but trying to figure out a better way to be even more efficient. And I think we're efficient as fuck right now, but I want to be even more efficient. So that's probably the two things we're going to be working on going into next year. What was the best part of living at your in-laws for half the year? And what was the worst part? So we did live at the in-laws for half the year. I would say cooking dinner every night. Every night I came home, no matter how late it was. I will tell you, man, were my in-laws pissed as shit sometimes when I come home at 9 o'clock at night and saying like, hey, I'm going to make a 7-course dinner and you're going to eat at 11. And they're not used to staying up that late. And then I'd be like, hey, come on down here. We'd all sit at the table and eat. So that was probably my favorite part, is eating with the family. And my least favorite part of living in the suburbs, driving. Come on. I-57 is like Mario Kart. It is dangerous as fuck, and I am scared shitless 90% of the time. There was at least 5 times I saw cars on fire. I sat in the car one time for almost 10 hours because somebody was shooting people on the highway. I mean, yeah, driving on that place is scary. How did you stay motivated during the year? I motivate myself. I do. I was motivated by the fact that I didn't want to fail. I was motivated by the fact that my goal was $220 million this year. I was motivated by the fact that I wanted to be number one not only in Chicago but in the country. I didn't hit either of those goals, nor did I hit our numbers goals. But that's what keeps me motivated. That's what gets me out of bed. You know, I constantly am like a man on a mission. I constantly want to figure out what can I do to be better. If you could go back to January 2020 and give yourself one piece of advice for the upcoming year, what would it be? You know what? I hate questions like this. I hate questions about like, what would I do if I knew something, and where do I feel like I'm going to be 5 years from now? I wouldn't have told myself shit. I wouldn't have, because I think you're better at figuring it out on your own rather than getting the this magic juice up front. My best piece of advice would be like, learn it. I think we succeeded because we figured it out as the year went. I didn't cry and complain about it. I didn't say like, oh, our business is going to fail. I didn't say like, we're not going to make it because people are afraid to leave their houses. I said, I'm going to go out there and get it. And I'm going to work harder than I've ever worked before. And I'm going to make sure I succeed because I believe in myself. And that's what happened. And that's why I would never go back and tell myself anything different. What was the best TV show you binged this year? Great question. Great. Emily in Paris. Probably Emily in Paris is my favorite. I love Paris. I love that she was from Chicago. It's a total chick flip rom-com, right up my alley. By the way, guys, I love rom-coms. I am a complete asshole, but for some reason, I love rom-coms. Emily in Paris was if you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. What was the favorite meal you cooked this year? Thanksgiving. I crushed Thanksgiving. 2 birds, 8 sides, 3 appetizers, baked some zucchini bread. I mean, you could check our Instagram. I made full menus for it, hands down. That was the best thing. And then on an everyday note, I have perfected chili. I've never really made chili before this year, but I have perfected it. So those are my fancy and everyday type meal. What is something positive that happened this year because of the pandemic that otherwise wouldn't have happened? I probably became closer with my son, even though I don't think I probably would have seen him as much. Not that I'd really seen him that much in general, which sounds terrible and makes me look like an asshole. But, when he's when we were staying at the Inlaws, I think I got to see him a little bit more because he probably stayed up later than he probably should have, because my mother-in-law would keep him up for him to be able to see me, whereas if we were at home, there's 0% chance Nicole would have allowed him to stay up. Nicole runs a very tight ship, guys. You do not mess with it. Everybody knows, because you don't want to deal with the fallout. So Mrs. Stalin is a little bit more lenient, so she would keep him up a little bit longer so I could put him in bed every night. So that's probably the best thing that happened. And what is my biggest accomplishment of 2020? I think the biggest thing that we've done was beat last year. And the fact that most of the markets that we work are having an atrociously, disgustingly terrible year, that everybody's moving out of the city, and we're selling the product that nobody wants to buy, and we crushed it. That's something that we have to somewhat feel good about. Even though I'm disgusted by our numbers, to do $205 million in probably one of the worst economies that we've seen for big cities is something we should be happy about. So where can people find me, and what do I want to plug? Let's plug the MattLaricygroup.com. Follow my Instagram profile on MLaricy. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast. Tune into our next episode. Thanks for listening to the Matt Laricy Project. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast, follow us on Instagram, and like us on Facebook.